and welcome to this stage, and we're going to speak about standard phraseology and the simple use of the call sign structure. For many of the pilots out there today, since you last, perhaps you're private pilot, our use of phraseology tends to lower as we seem to get into the rhythm of aviation. But one of the things that we need to always remember and be aware of every time you sit in the cockpit is the importance of phraseology and you're communicating correctly with the air traffic controller or whomever you need to communicate with. This is very, very important. And in some way, we've lost a little sight of that. And that's why we just want to reemphasize something so basic and so simple that many pilots have lost their way. One of the things I want to talk about is that basic structure of radio communication calls. Because since you last got your private or you flew, even in some countries, the way we use our call sign is very, very important. It's been proven that when we use a standard structure, it makes things a little simpler for understanding. So to help us better understand this structure and the proper use of call signs when communicating with ATC, we're just going to go over some of these general identifiable structures with radio calls made by the pilot. Now, initial call. Okay, this is the first call that we make to ATC, and the best way of demonstrating this is to split it up into what has been known to be the 6 W's. Those 6 W's consist of who, what, where, what. Now you may be thinking, what is this guy talking about? Well, let's break it down a little bit and let's understand really and truly what these W's actually represent and stand for and how we can make better use of them in aviation. For example, on the initial call, that's just what it is, the first call that you make to air traffic control. Now, ideally, especially on busy days, it's best to preclude this call with a simple who's who. But when we get into the real world of aviation and you're at a busy airport like Miami International or New York, JFK, you might find using who just might not get the job done. But on any other given day, when all conditions being correct, a who is not a bad idea. And we'll learn exactly what who actually is. That is to say, first, who you're calling. And then, most importantly, who you are. You see, what this does on a perfect condition is it gives the control an opportunity to make the pilot wait if they're busy at the moment. Once it's given to go ahead, then the pilot can continue with the other parts of the 6 W's. So let's look at the breakdown. And some apply and some do not apply, and we'll identify those. So first of all, who. That's the first W. Who you're calling. The person you're talking to, i.e. the controller. For example, if you're at Miami, who are you calling on your initial call? Well, in most cases, you're calling clearance delivery. So clearance delivery is going to be the who. Then secondly, the next W that follows is the one that's most important, who you are. That's to say the call sign of the aircraft or the flight number in the commercial operations. Now, this third one, what you are, this is not normally practiced in the United States, is to use what type of aircraft you are. This is practiced in many other foreign countries, but for the most part in the United States, it is not practiced. The next and fourth W is going to be where. Where your current position is. On the ground, this may be at a holding point or the parking area. In the air, it could be a waypoint, a visual reporting point. For example, you would also include the altitude that this call happens when you are flying. The fifth W is going to be what. Information. You notice that word information? Doesn't that rhyme with the ATIS information? That's right. What information that you currently have and what are you doing? So, have you listened to the ATIS information? What are you currently doing? It's going to be very, very important. And then finally, the last W, which is 6, is going to be what you want. Tell them your intentions or tell them the intentions you have, or in some cases, request permission for it. This is going to prove to be very, very important in this phase of the flight. So in the simplest form and the simplest use of standard phraseology on the initial call after listening to the ATIS, you might have something that goes like this. And remember, we're implementing the whats or the W's. Miami clearance, good morning. AAC 3806, Hotel 6 with information X-ray, request IFR clearance to Bogota. Now, did you notice we use 5 of those 6 W's? We use the who. We use the where, what. That is the first who, Miami clearance. The second who would have been you are AAC 3806. Then where? You're at Hotel 6, referring to the concourse or the gate you're currently parked at. And what ATIS information you have? You have ATIS information X-ray. And what is it that you want? Well, you're requesting the IFR clearance to Bogota. Now, on this end, the reciprocal end, you will now receive the request from ATC. And in this case, since you have asked for your clearance to Bogota, it will be given to you in this form. ATC 3806, cleared to the Bogota airport via radar vectors to join the EONS 2 departure. Maintain 5,000, expect flight level 37010 minutes after departure. Miami departure 125.5, squawk 3756. Okay, so we've gotten past the big hurdle now. Now it's your turn. And this is the important part because it's the readback. You now have to provide most of or all of the information contained within that clearance. So, in this case, your readback to ATC would be cleared to the Bogota airport via radar vectors to join the EONS 2 departure. Maintain 5,000, expect flight level 37010 minutes after departure. Miami departure 125.5, squawking 3756, AAC 3806. Did you notice anything different? Here's my question to you. Where was your call sign? Where was your call sign when ATC gave you your clearance? And where was your call sign when you read it back to them? Interesting. You see, in the use of standard phraseology, you notice the simple and logical way to use your call sign. You notice that on the initial call, the call sign is used first when making the call because you want to introduce yourself as to who you are. ATC will respond to you or reply to you using your call sign first also. But now this is where the response and readback parts now start to fall into place. All right? At the conclusion of your readback to ATC of your clearance, this is where your call sign should be used, making it easier for you to concentrate on the important parts of your communications with air traffic control. Every subsequent message after the initial call falls under the other two structures. The first we'd like to look at is that of the response. Now, this could be the pilot answering questions or doing a readback. That is to say, repeating the information the controller has given in order to make sure that the pilot has the correct information. The structure is very, very simple. And the R and the W, that's the response and the who you are, this is going to play a very, very vital role in your reading back correctly. In another example, the controller could give the pilot a new altimeter setting, or in other countries, a new QNH setting. So something like this would be from ATC. AEC 3806, new altimeter setting 3018. Now, how would the pilot respond back? Is he going to respond, AEC 3806, roger, new altimeter 3018? You see that? It's easy to get yourself all confounded and lose track of exactly what we're trying to get across, and that is the message. So the proper way the pilot should respond back in this case is, roger, new altimeter 3018, AEC 3806. You see, it makes things much more simpler and has a nice even flow. So when the pilot engages with the controller, he or she is already in contact with, now the structure takes on a different form. The pilot could be giving a position report, so to speak, or a query. In this case, we would follow the WWM, okay? That is who you're calling, who you are, and what message do you have to pass. For example, the pilot might be on short final, and he might notice there are a flock of birds on the approach path for the runway active or in use. So in this case, the pilot might want to report to the tower, in this case, Miami Tower. Miami Tower, AEC 3806, reporting bird activity on short final. You see, he is engaging the ATC controller. He is now initiating that call, so therefore the call sign would be used in first instance. Just like the initial call, there may be times where it's appropriate to engage the controller with an initial who, just to make sure that they're not too busy to respond to you at that moment. Now, with practice, the proper use of this type of standard phraseology can greatly improve your skills and, most importantly, understanding and being understood. We hope that this has in some way assisted you in understanding the proper flow in the call sign usage, and we hope that everything works out well. Enjoy. Thank you for allowing Aviation English Now to give you a little bit more insight to standard phraseology and the simple use of call sign structure. It is hoped that this will improve your use of your call sign in your daily activities in aviation and truly assist you with being able to fully comprehend, understand, and be understood.